Hello again, welcome back to European Autocross Studios. I'm going to go back and just show you the procedure to replace one of these toggles in the window switch, just in case you had an interest in that. I mean, I kind of fumbled it last time, but I wasn't feeling too good that day. But anyways, I want to show you how to get them apart, and or what I do anyways, to clean them and to put the new piece in, the new toggle. Specs on it. As you can see, this one has a broken pin, and it jams and doesn't work. I can only repair the switches that are from Porsche. I know I covered this before, but I want to go over that again. Only the Porsche switches I can fix. I've tried to do some other ones that come out okay, but they're not the same. So let's show you how to do that. So underneath you'll see there's like two little slots under the ring, under the bezel, the escutcheon. You just give it a little twist on each side, and then that comes right off. Toggle comes out, and all the guts come out. A little sticky, there's some grease in there. Okay. So you can see springs, pins, and our little broken piece. So we don't want that anymore. Most of the pins on these are rounded on the top. The real old switches have a different type. You can see it's got a little wedge shape to it as opposed to the round. If one of these is melted down, I always change them over to the round ones because they have a better feel inside the switch, and it tends to center the toggle better. It doesn't stay too far to one side. It stays pretty centered, and that's because of the way the shape of it holds it down in the center. So I know I'm kind of geeking out about switches. You might call me the switch doctor. Can't switch doctor. All right. Well, anyways, so cleaning is pretty simple, really. I mean, you got to get all the old grease off. If the springs are, if the switch melted internally, the springs get too hot and they lose their tension. That's why I had a whole bunch of springs made just in case. And my little jeweler's lathe, I can make these little pins. I've already made a few to see how they work. So if you send me a switch that is all mangled inside, I can fix it and save you a lot of money. So we want to clean. I just have a little tool in here, a little screwdriver, and clean the grease off the terminals. Because sometimes they'll stop working. You'll have, as I explained last week, you have the window. The way the window switches are designed, if you have a switch that will go up but not go down, or go down but not go up, it's because the terminal that's at rest, when you hit the switch, one terminal doesn't move. That one tends to build up corrosion and will stop making contact. So you'll have two positives, but then you'll switch it and you'll have nothing. Or you won't have one side that has the positive voltage. It'll be open circuit, so nothing moves. If you wiggle the switch back and forth really fast, it'll probably work for temporary, but you'll probably break it if it's not one of my newfangled fancy aluminum switches. So be careful with that. Okay, so these are pretty clean. I'm just going to make sure there's no carbon. I use this to just make sure there's no carbon on the contacts. And if I rebuild your switches, I will guarantee it for life. There's no problem. These are just amazing switches. I mean, what else do you expect from a witch doctor? Oh, switch doctor. What am I saying? Switch doctor. Witch doctor. All right. So there's just a little discoloration. Take a little Scotch-Brite, and we'll get those looking good. Clean. Same with this one. Now you could do this yourself. These switches in the early cars, boy, you've got to get the wiring right. I'm almost hesitant to show you how to take them out, because if the wire color is different in your car for any reason, or you don't get it right, you can actually smoke the wiring harness. So it's important that you know how to do that. Or if you take it to your local shop, whoever does your work on your car can pop the switches out and send them to me, and I'll do them. But if you really want to, I can send you the parts to do it. Pretty simple, except the wiring part. Okay, so we're clean here. Again, I get babbling and I just forget what I'm doing. We want to get all the grease off of the rockers, so we have some nice fresh grease. All right. So where these rock inside here, I'm just going to put a little bit of dielectric grease. Oh my gosh. That's never happened before. The grease is going on the pivot points. And sometimes that just gets a little bit out of control there. And we'll lay these back inside. This gets a little tricky because you got to get it, I don't know if you can see that, got to get them sitting right inside the pocket there. There we go. And they'll just sit in there real nice. You don't want to get any grease on the terminals, just the rocker part where it pivots. These little pins are still in good shape. Clean those up. Get my fancy new toggle ready to go in. It's trying to get away, but it's going to go in there. So I can do a chrome one, as you can see. Maybe a little too much. I think the 911s like to be original, the black. So same thing. We'll get a little bit of grease. Don't mind my little mess here. Happens sometimes, especially when you get old. And these springs are actually in very good condition, so we're just going to reuse those. And make sure the grease is all coming up around the little cylinder. Here we go. And they're not going to fall out. We can work with that a little bit. One more, a little bit of grease in each pivot point. And then we can just drop that right in there. Now, the tricky part. This has to snap back on the switch while getting these little springy tabs underneath. This is, of course, what holds it in the door, and a little metal frame in the door. So what I try to do is get one side pushed in, then you can get your thumb under one, then the other. Now they're stuck under there, and then you can hold these two in while you snap the rest of it on. And there you go. There's one beautiful European Autocraft switch toggle from the Switch Doctor, and you're not going to break it. There's nothing you can do to break that switch except smash it with a hammer. These have been tested. We've gone on, I think, 3 years now. They've been in cars, customers' cars that I have. No issues, no complaints. They work perfectly. So, if you're interested in anything like this, send me an email. Send me, just make a comment. I'll find it in there somewhere and get back to you. Pretty simple stuff, but it makes a big difference. It has a better feel, too, than the plastic toggle. It just feels better. And if you have other aluminum accessories in the car, this is one way to add a little bit more to it that most people don't have. So, up for sale, $25 each. I sell them as just $75 for the set of them, and I'll rebuild them for you, or I'll send them to you, however you want to do it. Just begging you to be careful with the wiring. Super critical. Take a photograph, disconnect the battery, and when you reconnect the battery after you hook it up, just make sure there's no big sparks there. Windows aren't going on by themselves. Very important. So that's it. Simple to do. This one a little more clicky than this one. I don't think I put grease in this one. This was just to show off the look of it. So with the extra grease in there, it's really nice. All right. So that's it for the window switches. Any questions? Let me know. I'd really like to sell some of these and get them back out, get them out there in the field. Do some more, get some more out there. Pretty much it. So what else we have going on? There's not one level surface in this place. That's why I'm working on the parts cleaner, because there is no place to put anything. I still have the transmission over there for the Corvette that we're digging into. We'll get some video on that when I get a little deeper into it. Did want to let you know what happened to our wet blasting machine. I know you've been following me along on that. Well, we had a little problem with the motor. As you can see, the slurry pump is missing off the back of it. So we had a 30 amp circuit on it, and it kept tripping the breaker. So I'm like, well, there can't be anything wrong with the machine. It must be not getting enough power, even though the tag said 3,800 watts. So I'm like, nah, there's got to be something wrong. So I upgraded the wire to 8, put a 40 amp breaker in it. Lo and behold, it worked great for about 15 seconds. It lasted 10 seconds longer than it did with the 30 amp. We were trying to figure out why this thing keeps tripping the breaker. So after some deep thought and studying the system, that yellow hose over there, I had connected from this pump to the spray nozzle inside. It's a closed loop water system, so this supplies its own water for working. And that was disconnected. There was no connection over there at all. I didn't know why. Well, it dawned on me that is the water supply that goes under the pump to mix the sand and the media with the water to make a nice loose slurry that the pump can actually pump. So basically, it was like a cement rock in there, and the pump could barely turn. And that's what was tripping the breaker. So I got that hooked up, started running the machine, and it started working great until billows of smoke came out of the motor because it was already dead from trying to run it, not being able to get out of its start cycle. So $1,400 later, I have a motor coming for it. It's not a metric motor, but it's a different motor. We're going to make a plate for it that'll make it all adapt. So I'll have a sort of the correct motor for it's kind of a standard U.S. standard motor. Anyways, that's the saga on this. One day, I promise you, it will work. So what else do we have today? Our little Turbo 2. If you want to take a closer look at this, this is the Renault 5. I can't wait to road test this car. We only looked at it a little bit last time, but inside here, I don't know if you can, how well you'll be able to see this, but this is I think it's a 1.4 liter engine, CIS fuel injection. The intercooler is the intake manifold, which is very interesting. This is the Renault 5. I mean, there's other bodies that look like this that aren't wide bodies, but they don't have the rear engine. This is a very special little car. So I'm looking forward to getting this running. We repaired the fuel tank. The fuel tank had a hole in it. We plastic welded that. Here's something interesting. Let me show you this. This has 2 fuel tanks. This is the connector piece for the 2 fuel tanks. You can see the pass-through. When the fuel, as you're filling it, goes up, it looks like maybe 2/3 up the fuel tank, fuel can pass over and fill the other tank. So like the 911, the Carrera 4s or the Turbo has the front differential, the fuel tank is saddled, but it's all one piece. But still, if you fill the tank, it only fills one side until it gets up over the hump and then fills the other side. So if you run out of fuel and you only put 10 gallons or, yeah, about 10 gallons, the fuel gauge won't read. So this one, sort of the same idea. You want to be able to pick up from both fuel tanks. So this fuel pickup goes here and sucks out of one tank, left tank. This one connects here and pulls out of this passenger side tank. So if the fuel is low and you're driving, cornering, and the fuel sloshes, one or the other will get picked up. Now, you can't do it with one fuel pump because you'll be sucking air out of one side and you won't get the fuel pressure. It won't suck fuel, it'll suck air. So they use two fuel pumps, one pump for this side, one pump for this side. And then that runs into another pump which feeds the fuel injection. So pretty interesting design. I'm kind of learning as I go on this. I can't really find a service manual yet, but it's getting pretty complicated. But it's fun to work on new stuff like this. So that's how this fuel pickup works. So we'll get that all back together next week. I just got the new fuel hose, submersible fuel hose, not the same as fuel hose you use outside of the fuel tank. So that's our little Renault 5 we're getting together. Turbo 2. Awesome. So what else we have today? We're working on this, our little buggy you've probably seen in the background. This is it was a sandrail, it's converted to the street. We're putting front disc brakes on it and rear. I haven't opened these yet, so I want to see what we got. These are, I think this is the brake hoses, spacers, wheel bearings, and stuff. I lost my glasses. All I see is shiny metal things. Ah, here they are. And brake pads. Nice, nice. There should be two brake kits in here, front and rear. But I only have one. So, calipers. And these are the rears because we're going to put a parking brake on this. This is going to be I'm going to make it like a daily driver. Something really, really sleek looking. We're getting rid of the chrome springs and only going to use one shock absorber instead of two. It has torsion bars and it's very light, so we don't need to have all these shock absorbers. It's just not necessary. Too much stuff. So we're going to clean it up, smooth it out, and make it look really good. So I should have looked at this sooner because we only have two calipers, the rear. We don't have the front brake kit. I don't know why. So, my first time opening the boxes. The customer opened them. Just hardware kits. Let's see the other box. I also have an engine mount coming. Maybe they're in here. Why do I have two? So excited. Here it is. This is our engine bracket. I wanted to isolate the engine from the engine and transmission from the frame. What this is going to do is going to bolt to the transmission and isolate us with these bushings to where it bolts to the frame. I designed one that didn't pan out too well, so this is a better option. I don't know why we have two. I only need one. This has a Volkswagen bus transmission. It's a 5-rib bus transmission, which is very, very strong. So once I get this engine apart, I need to know what we have in it. I had it running once before I took it apart, and it sounds pretty stout. But is this the same? It's like Christmas when you open a gift. It's like, oh, that wasn't for you. I wrote the tag on it. Yeah, we have two. I don't know why we have two. We only need one, but we have no front brakes. So a little more work to do on that. This did not have front brakes. It had spindle front wheels to keep the front end light. Because it was a sandrail, you want the front end super light. It even had wheelie bars, so you can skip over the sand dunes. This, we got to get some weight in the front so we can drive it on the street. So that includes the front brake's going to add a few pounds, and the bigger wheels in the front. That should help. So I think that's it for today. I got to talk to this guy and figure out why we don't have front brakes, but we have two engine mounts. I don't know. I hope you like watching the switches, see the progress in the shop. Our two Rolls Royces are gone. That's getting organized a little bit at a time. We're still trying to find a bigger location, but that's a little ways off. But we'll keep you up to date on all that stuff. So that's it for today. We'll see you next week. Like, subscribe, please. We love the subscriptions, subscribers, and all that stuff. Yeah, well, whatever. All right, we'll see you next week.